A mother is relieved tonight after a judge sentenced the man who killed her daughter to life in prison. Thanks for joining us. I'm Mike Bush.
And I'm Kelly Jackson. While BreAnna Johnson's killer faces justice, her family wants more domestic violence offenders to be held accountable. Only 5 on your side's Melanie Johnson was there for the life sentence. She joins us live from St. Charles.
It was a heartbreaking day on both sides of the court as prosecutors say that this St. Charles County mom was shot 5 times in the back. After seeing the autopsy report, Darryl Tyson Jr. changed his plea to guilty for killing the mother of his children and unborn twins.
I feel relief for my daughter.
With her daughter's ashes in her arms.
Jury that said he was guilty, he said he was guilty. And that was justice for BreAnna, and I wanted her to hear that.
Wentzville, Missouri, October 31st, 2024. Halloween night. The jack-o'-lanterns are still glowing on the porches of Katie Lynn Court. The candy wrappers are still on the sidewalks. The children who trick-or-treated these streets hours earlier are asleep in their beds. And inside a home on the 100 block of Katie Lynn Court, shortly before 2 in the morning, Wentzville Police Department officers respond to a call. What they find inside that house will not leave them. On the floor, a 28-year-old woman shot 5 times. Every single bullet entered her back. In the home, 2 babies, a 17-month-old, a 6-month-old, alone, awake, crying, and standing nearby. The man who made that call to police. He looks investigators in the eye and tells them BreAnna Johnson attacked him first. He called it self-defense. Welcome to Crime Beyond the Shadow. To my loyal subscribers, I pray your families remain safe and protected wherever you are tonight. If you are new here, subscribe and turn on that notification bell. Because here, we bring you the facts others leave behind. The truths that deserve to be heard. The stories that do not end when the headlines move on. Today we go to Wentzville, Missouri, and we follow the last 27 days of BreAnna Johnson, a 28-year-old mother, 4 months pregnant with twin boys, whose life was stolen on the one night a year the whole world wears a mask. Before we go any further, 4 things you need to know about Halloween night 2024 in Wentzville, Missouri. 1. BreAnna Johnson was 4 months pregnant, 16 weeks, carrying twin boys, when she was shot 5 times in the back inside her own home. She was not facing her shooter. The medical examiner confirmed she was moving away from him. Possibly running, possibly already falling. Every bullet entered her back. 2. Her 2 surviving sons, Messiah, 17 months old, and Jeremiah, just 6 months old, were inside that home when it happened. They were not physically harmed. They were alone, awake, crying, in a house with their mother's body on the floor. 3. Darryl Tyson Jr. claimed self-defense. He told that to the same investigators who were already waiting for an autopsy report. His own defense attorney would later admit, publicly, on record, that the moment they saw those autopsy photographs, everything changed. 4. BreAnna's family had been screaming for help for almost 2 years before that Halloween night. Her mother, Jeanette, had photographs of what Darryl Tyson had done to her daughter's body. She handed those photographs to detectives herself. The system heard them, and then it let BreAnna go back. Before we go any further, I want to ask you something. If someone you loved was in a violent relationship and refused to leave, what would you do? What could anyone have done? Drop your answer in the comments, because that question is at the center of everything you are about to hear, and the answer is more complicated than most people are willing to sit with. Stay with me. October 4th, 2024. BreAnna Johnson turns 28 years old. She is surrounded by the people who love her. She is celebrating. She is alive. 27 days later, she is gone. Sit with that number for a moment. 27 days, between her birthday and her murder. Between the candles on a cake and the testimony of a medical examiner in a St. Charles County courtroom. 27 days. BreAnna Johnson was a young black woman living in Wentzville, Missouri, a suburb most people drive through without stopping. She was a mother first and everything else second. Her sons Messiah and Jeremiah, 17 months and 6 months old, were her entire universe. 2 babies who needed her for everything. 2 babies who were in that house on Halloween night. She was also carrying twin boys, 4 months along, 16 weeks. Far enough to know they were boys. not far enough to have named them in any way the public record has preserved. BreAnna's mother is Jeanette Giddens, also known as Jeanette Perry. She described her daughter the way mothers describe daughters they raised to be good people, with the specific, unguarded language of someone who did not need to search for the right words because they were already there. She was also, by every account, a woman fighting for her own survival inside a relationship that had long since become dangerous. And her mother knew it. Jeanette was not passive in the face of what she watched happening to her daughter. She was documenting, photographing, handing evidence to detectives, pushing a system that was moving too slowly for the speed of the danger inside that home. BreAnna had reached out for help. More than once, the system heard her. And then, more than once, it let her go back. Leave a candle in the comments if you are with BreAnna today, because she deserved so much more than 27 days. Darryl Tyson Jr., 39 years old at the time of the murder, living in the St. Louis, Missouri area. By the time he stood in front of investigators on Halloween night, he was the father of BreAnna's children. All of them. The 2 boys at home, the twins she was carrying. That bond, that specific, complicated, suffocating bond, is important to understand. Because it is what kept BreAnna in his orbit, even as the violence escalated. Even as the photographs piled up, even as her mother handed those photographs to detectives and begged the system to act. He was the father of her children. That is not a small thing to walk away from. Especially with 2 babies under 18 months old, especially with twin boys on the way. On the surface, Darryl Tyson was present. In the home. Available. That was the version he showed the world. Behind closed doors, a documented pattern of violence that stretched back years. Specifically, consistently, targeted at BreAnna. In 2022, BreAnna first reached out to an organization called JADASA, the Journey Against Domestic and Sexual Abuse, based in St. Louis. By January of 2023, nearly 2 years before the murder, she had walked through their doors with injuries visible enough that staff immediately documented what they saw. Bruises, lacerations, both eyes swollen shut. She told them, who did it? He was not arrested that day. Dr. Cynthia Bennett, the founder and executive director of JADASA, tried to help BreAnna. She would later become one of the most vocal public voices to demanding justice after the murder. She described what she observed across the years she worked with BreAnna in language that is precise and devastating. He just had a grip on her. She felt like she couldn't get free. And then she said something that reveals the nature of this kind of violence more clearly than any statistic. The last time we heard from her was actually February 2024. And she was talking about how she was in this abusive situation, and she was trying to find ways to get out, and we were just trying to encourage her. February 2024, 9 months before Halloween night. Still trying to find a way out. Still in contact with an organization that was doing everything it could to help her. The abuse Tyson inflicted was not limited to physical violence. Coercive control, the systematic dismantling of a person's ability to make independent decisions, operates through finances, through isolation, through the psychological weight of having someone control your environment so completely that your choices narrow until there are almost none left. At the time of the shooting, Darryl Tyson Jr. was employed as a Metro Transit security officer, a man paid to protect people. Coming home to a woman he was destroying. I want you to think about something and answer it honestly below. Why is it so difficult for victims of domestic violence to leave, even when they know the danger? There is no wrong answer. And if you have lived it yourself, you do not have to share more than you are comfortable sharing. To understand what happened on Halloween night 2024, you have to understand the years that led to it. Because this did not begin on October 31st. It began long before BreAnna ever walked into a JADASA shelter with both eyes swollen shut. It began in the specific, invisible architecture of a relationship that looked functional from the outside and was anything but. Messiah and Jeremiah, born within months of each other, paint the picture of a relationship moving fast. 2 babies in rapid succession, a household, a shared life. And inside that shared life, a man who understood that the more dependent BreAnna became on the structure he provided, the harder it would be for her to leave it. That is not a theory. That is coercive control, documented, studied, and precisely what organizations like JDASA are trained to recognize. By early 2023, BreAnna had already been to the shelter, already had documentation. The abuse was not hidden from the people around her. It was photographed, reported, witnessed. Her mother Jeanette was watching all of it, collecting evidence, sharing it with detectives, pushing the system to move. And yet Tyson remained in the home, remained in her life, remained the father of the children she was feeding and bathing and raising, while simultaneously trying to survive him. JDASA tried to intervene. Her community tried to intervene, but the legal system had not yet found a mechanism to remove Darryl Tyson from BreAnna's world before he had the chance to end it. And then, in the months leading up to October 2024, BreAnna discovered she was pregnant again, with twin boys. I need you to stay with me here. Because what happened inside that home at 100 Katy Lynn Court in the weeks that followed, we need to talk about that. October 2024. BreAnna Johnson is 16 weeks pregnant, 2 babies at home, twin boys growing, and the tension inside that household, by every account, is reaching a point that no one inside it can walk back from. October 4th, her birthday. She turns 28. She celebrates. She is alive, and she is surrounded by love, and she has 27 days left. October 30th, 2024, the night before Halloween. Police are called to the home on Katy Lynn Court for a domestic dispute. What Wentzville Police Department officers find when they arrive is this. Darryl Tyson Jr. has thrown a phone directly at BreAnna's head. The injury is serious enough to warrant a domestic assault charge on the spot. Officers respond. They interview BreAnna at the hospital. She is uncooperative with investigators. She goes home. I need you to understand something before you judge that decision, because it is the decision that gets misunderstood most consistently in cases like this one. BreAnna Johnson did not go home on October 30th because she was careless. She did not go home because she did not understand the danger. She went home because she had 2 babies who needed her. Because leaving requires somewhere safe to go. And leaving at midnight, pregnant, with 2 infants, is not a decision a person makes in the moment. It is a decision a person makes after they have built the conditions that make leaving survivable. Those conditions were not yet in place. What was in place, as of October 30th, was a domestic assault charge against Darryl Tyson Jr. He was taken into custody on that charge. That charge, that single, specific charge for throwing a phone at a pregnant woman's head, is the thing that kept him in custody long enough for detectives to build a murder case after the following night. October 30th becomes October 31st. Halloween. The candy wrappers are on the sidewalk. The jack-o'-lanterns are still glowing. And inside the home on Katy Lynn Court, something final is happening. Police were at that house the night before she died. I need you to hold that. They were there. They saw what was happening. They charged him. And I want to ask you, honestly, in the comments, what do you think should happen when police respond to a domestic violence call involving a pregnant woman? What should the protocol be? What would have changed the outcome of the next 18 hours? Tell me. October 31st, 2024. Shortly before 2 in the morning, the neighborhood is still, the holiday is over. Inside 100 Katy Lynn Court, Messiah and Jeremiah are in that house, 2 babies. 17 months and 6 months old. And something final happens between BreAnna Johnson and Darryl Keith Tyson Jr. We do not know every word spoken in those last minutes, but we know the outcome with forensic certainty. Because the medical examiner's report does not lie. It does not negotiate. It does not accept the version of events offered by the person still standing when police arrive. BreAnna Johnson is shot 5 times. Every single bullet enters her back. Not her front, not her side, her back. The medical examiner's report is explicit. The trajectory of every wound is consistent with a victim who was moving away from the shooter, possibly running, possibly already falling when the trigger was pulled the final time. Police find her in the bathroom hallway. 5 shots into the back of a 28-year-old woman, 4 months pregnant with twins, on Halloween night, in a house with 2 babies awake and alone. Darryl Tyson Jr. does not flee. He stays. He calls for help. And when Wentzville Police Department officers arrive, he looks at them and tells them BreAnna attacked him first. Self-defense. That was his story. And for the procedural moment that investigators are trained to provide, they had to consider it. They had to document it. They had to let it exist as a claim while the evidence was gathered. But there was already something ordered, something already in motion. Something sitting in a file that was going to destroy every word Darryl Tyson Jr. had just said. The autopsy had been requested, and its results were going to be unambiguous. When Jadasa learns the news, Dr. Cynthia Bennett responds in the language of an advocate who has done this work long enough to know exactly what this outcome means. It was a dark day. She was a beautiful young girl. We just tried to help her. And then she says the thing that needs to be said plainly. He is a coward, because you took her away from her children. Somewhere in Wentzville, Jeanette Giddens learns that her daughter is dead, that her unborn grandsons are gone, that her surviving grandbabies, Messiah and Jeremiah, are now without their mother. And Jeanette Giddens does not collapse into silence. She gets loud. Because BreAnna's mother carried the photographs of what Darryl Tyson had done to her daughter's body. She handed those photographs to detectives. She pushed, she begged, she documented everything. And now, with her daughter gone, she walks into every room that will listen, and she makes sure BreAnna is not forgotten. BreAnna's mother, Jeanette, held her daughter's remains in that courtroom at sentencing. I want you to sit with that image. A mother carrying her daughter into the room where justice was spoken. What would you have said to that man if you had the chance? Tell me in the comments. Wentzville Police Department begins building the murder case while Darryl Tyson Jr. sits in custody on the domestic assault charge from October 30th. The autopsy is ordered. The results come back. Tyson's defense attorney, Raphael Morris, later admitted publicly and on record what those autopsy photographs meant for his client's case. When it happened, he initially told the police that he believed she was facing him. Obviously, once we got the discovery and seen the photographs from the autopsy, that was not accurate. After much consideration, he decided entering a plea of guilty was in his best interest. The autopsy ended the self-defense claim in a single sentence. Every bullet was in her back. December 19, 2024, a grand jury convenes in St. Charles County. They review the evidence. They return an indictment. 3 counts of first-degree murder, 1 for BreAnna, 1 for each of her unborn twin sons. 3 counts of armed criminal action, 1 count of second-degree domestic assault. Bond is set by Judge Deborah Alessi at $1 million, cash only. Meanwhile, Jeanette is not waiting for the courts to tell BreAnna's story. She is telling it herself, publicly, to every reporter and every advocate and every lawmaker who will listen. And alongside her, Dr. Cynthia Bennett of Jadasa, who received over 3,200 crisis helpline calls in the year leading up to BreAnna's death, launches a public campaign for what they are calling BreAnna's Law. A statewide public registry for repeat domestic violence offenders, modeled after the sex offender registry, designed to give communities the warning system that might have told someone, somewhere, who Darryl Tyson Jr. was before he became the father of 4 of BreAnna's children. Of course we can't help BreAnna now, Dr. Bennett said, but we can help the next person. Do you think a public registry for repeat domestic violence offenders would save lives? Yes or no? And tell me why in the comments, because this is legislation being actively pursued right now, and your voice matters. June 2, 2026, St. Charles County Courthouse, Judge Deborah Alessi presiding. Darryl Tyson Jr., now 41 years old, enters a plea. Not a standard guilty plea. An Alford plea, a legal mechanism in which a defendant does not explicitly admit guilt but acknowledges that prosecutors have sufficient evidence to secure a conviction at trial. In Missouri, and in this courtroom, the practical outcome is the same. 3 counts of second-degree murder, 1 count for BreAnna Johnson, 1 count for each of her unborn twin boys. 1 count of second-degree domestic assault for throwing a phone at a pregnant woman's head the night before he killed her. The self-defense trial his attorney had been preparing to mount, dismantled entirely by the autopsy report, by 5 bullets, all in her back. Judge Deborah Alessi sentences Darryl Tyson Jr. to 30 years in prison on the murder charges. 7 additional years for the domestic assault to be served concurrently. Under Missouri law, he must serve at least 85% of his sentence before he is eligible for parole. That is more than 25 years. He will be in his mid-60s when he first becomes eligible. Messiah and Jeremiah, BreAnna's surviving sons, will be in their late 20s. They will have lived their entire lives without their mother. And then there is this. Jeanette Perry, BreAnna's mother, walks into that courtroom on June 2, 2026, carrying her daughter's remains. She stands in front of the man who took her daughter from the world, and she speaks. I wanted her to see. I wanted her to hear him say guilty. It wasn't a jury that said he was guilty. He said he was guilty. That was justice for BreAnna, and I wanted her to hear that. And then she adds, because Jeanette Perry does not soften the truth for anyone, I would like it to be worse. I'd like him to never see the light of day. It's justice for BreAnna and her sons. Messiah and Jeremiah are alive. They are being raised by family. Their surviving grandfather, according to court officials, now their primary caregiver. Growing up, learning to walk and talk and exist in a world that took everything from them before they were old enough to understand what was taken. They were in that house on Halloween night. They heard whatever was heard. They were awake when officers arrived. They are 17 months and 6 months old in the memory of that night, and they will carry it in ways they cannot yet articulate. The twin boys BreAnna was carrying never had names that the public record preserved. They were 4 months from being born. They are counted in the charges, 1 count of murder each. They are counted in the sentence, but they will never be counted in a school enrollment form or a family photograph or a birthday party. 4 children, 3 of them still here, all of them without their mother. Jeanette Perry channels her grief the way only certain people can, outward, into action, into the kind of purpose that does not allow grief to become paralysis. She is working with Missouri lawmakers to pass BreAnna's law, legislation that would create a statewide public registry for repeat domestic violence offenders, the same warning infrastructure that exists for sex offenders. The same public accountability that might have told someone who Darryl Tyson Jr. was before BreAnna was in too deep to see a way out. Dr. Cynthia Bennett of JDASA, the organization that tried to help BreAnna from 2022 through February of 2024, continues to fight. She said it plainly, and she meant every word. BreAnna is one too many. She should still be here today. And then there is Jeanette's message, spoken directly to every person watching, reading, listening. The very first red flag, don't ignore it. Don't think that it's going to get better. Don't ever think that it won't happen to you. She is right, and she should not have had to learn that lesson by burying her daughter. BreAnna Johnson's case is not an anomaly. It is a pattern with a name, and that name is femicide, the killing of women by intimate partners. And in the United States, it is happening at a scale that should generate sustained systemic outrage. Homicide is one of the leading causes of death for pregnant women in America. Not complications, not illness, violence, committed by someone who knows them, someone who lives with them, someone who is the father of their children. The warning signs in BreAnna's case were documented. January 2023, shelter visit, both eyes swollen shut, photographs taken. Throughout 2023 and into 2024, ongoing contact with JDASA, ongoing attempts to find a way out. February 2024, her last contact with JDASA, still in the situation, still trying to leave. October 30th, 2024, police at the home, phone thrown at her head. Domestic assault charge filed, BreAnna interviewed at the hospital and uncooperative. October 31st, 2024, 5 bullets, all in her back. The documentation existed. The reports existed. The photographs existed. Jeanette handed them to detectives herself. What did not exist was a mechanism to remove Darryl Tyson Jr. from BreAnna's world before he had the opportunity to end it. A domestic violence offender registry, the legislation BreAnna's family and JDASA are now pursuing in Missouri, would not have been a perfect solution. No law is, but it would have been a tool. A way for communities, for employers, for potential partners, to know who they are dealing with, to see the documented pattern before someone else pays for it with their life. Darryl Tyson Jr., was employed as a Metro Transit security officer, a man in a position of public trust. While the documented history of what he had done to BreAnna existed in shelter records and police reports and a mother's collection of photographs, nobody who hired him knew. Nobody who worked alongside him knew. That is the gap BreAnna's law is designed to close. BreAnna Johnson turned 28 on October 4, 2024. She was planning a future. She was carrying 2 sons. She had 2 babies at home who needed her. 27 days later, she was gone. If BreAnna's law passes in Missouri, and if other states follow, what do you think it will take for this country to truly treat domestic violence as the life-threatening emergency that it is? I want your real answer in the comments. Don't hold back. BreAnna Johnson, 28 years old, gone 27 days after her birthday, shot 5 times in the back, in her own home, on Halloween night, carrying twin boys the world never got to meet. She deserved to see those boys born. She deserved to watch Messiah and Jeremiah grow up, to hold them when they cried, to be there for the first days of school and the scraped knees and the ordinary Tuesday evenings that nobody photographs but everybody remembers. None of that was taken from her by accident. It was taken deliberately, by a man who then stood in front of police and called it self-defense. And the autopsy said, 5 shots, all in her back. Her mother Jeanette walked into that courtroom carrying her daughter's remains and made sure BreAnna heard justice spoken out loud by the man who took her. In his own words, that is a love that does not break. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, please reach out. Tonight, not tomorrow. The National Domestic Violence Hotline. 1-800-799-7233, available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, free, confidential. Jadasa St. Louis, 314-531-203, the organization that fought for BreAnna and is still fighting for the next woman. If this story moved you, share it, because BreAnna's story being told is part of how we make sure it does not happen to the next woman. I am your host. This has been Crime Beyond the Shadow. Next time. A case that begins with a birthday celebration and ends with a family destroyed. You already know her name. Stay close, subscribe, hit that notification bell, stay safe, stay aware, and remember, the truth always finds its way to the light.